Hey guys, while I'm running over here to do the setup, we're going to start the video. Welcome to the last, or kind of sort of last, guide video for the Revenant. This one is over the Herald, meaning the Herald's elite specialization, the Herald, the weapon the Herald gets, and the skills the Herald gets. We are going to be starting this episode with the specialization in and of itself. So the specialization that we have here, notice I'm not wearing my armor, is Herald, which can only take up the bottom slot here, which is how every elite specialization works. You have your minor traits, your intermediate traits, and your major traits. The minor trait, the first one, is going to be Swift Gale, gain super speed when you successfully break a stun. This one is meant to be a little bit more defensive and works very nicely with, say, the specialization Retribution than any other specialization. It can be used, but is more used in PvP than anything else, and it's rarely used even there. Most people use the next one, which is called Radiant Revival. Gain infused light when you begin reviving a downed ally. You revive allies faster. The infused light actually is placed onto your downed ally, which means it inverts all incoming damage into healing. So instead of them saying in PvP, as an example, being cleaved down by the enemy, all that cleave is going to be healing them back up and will cause them to revive even faster, plus your 10% revive speed. And this is the default choice to take in PvP, PvE. Not sure about World v World, but it is basically the default choice for any Revenant at this point in time. You also have Hardening Persistence. Gain toughness for each point of upkeep you are currently using. So an upkeep skill, for an example here, is going to be your heal skill, all your utilities, and your elite. These are all upkeeps. You also have upkeeps within Vintari, within your Protective Solace. You have an upkeep. Basically, every single one of these is going to have one upkeep. So you have it within Vintari as your Protective Solace, as I've said. You have it within the Legendary Demon stance, within your Elite Embrace the Darkness. You have it within your Legendary Assassin stance, within your Impossible Odds. And you have it within Jalis as your Vengeful Hammers. But every single utility skill, heal, and elite for a Herald, when you're in Dragon stance, is going to be all of these. Also, your Facet of Nature is also an upkeep. So you can gain pretty much a lot of toughness. Just be forewarning if you're ever trying to use that during a raid. Warn people, especially your tank who is using it on fights that are toughness based. Warn your tank, because they will be super mad if you go over their toughness and start tanking the boss instead. Within your next line, you have Bolster Fortifications. Grant protection to nearby allies when using a healing skill. This one was actually seen used during my latest build video for the Revenant. I use it during any healing build that I do for a Revenant, because you're basically pulsing out constant protection every time you use your heal skill. So it's negative 33% to incoming damage for quite some time. Your next one is Shared Empowerment. When you apply a boon to an ally, also apply might to nearby allies. This is basically the default choice currently in the meta, because let's face it, the Herald is a boon generator. You generate swiftness, you generate fury, more might, regen, and protection, no matter which facet you have up. The only facet that won't constantly pulse out boons is going to be your Facet of Nature. Your next one is going to be Harmonize Continuity. When you successfully stun break, you also stun break allies. It's as simple as it says. When you actually break from stun, you will cause other allies to also break from stun. There's another skill that it synergizes with, which causes, when you break stun on, I think it's an invocation. When you swap a legend, you break your stun. And so whenever you swap a legend, you would be breaking your own stun as well as everyone else's. So it's just a free stun break there. Just so that's not constantly flashing. You're going into the next line. You have Elder's Force, increase damage per boon on you, and the increased damage bonus per boon is 2%. Something interesting with this one skill there is I once played around with the fact for this for a ranger. So with the ranger, they actually only have a trait that gives them 1% bonus damage per boon on you. And as a Revenant, when you're running Herald, this is really, really good because of the fact at any given time you have at least 2 to 3 boons on you. You'll see later in this video my normal style of running in the open world. Generally speaking, I have 4 boons on me at any given time. The next trait is going to be Crystal Hibernation. Channel a shield from the mists to protect you, blocking attacks and regenerating health. And below it is Soothing Bastion. Activate Crystal Hibernation when struck and when you're below the health threshold. Now, this is basically your Shield 5. The reason why I never take this skill is because Shield 5 will hunker you down, you will stop moving, and it can end up killing you. Also, even though I tried to synergize this once before with a healing build, it only affects you, so basically speaking, it's if you're dying, but if you're dying as the healer in a raid or in a PvP match, it's great for a PvP match first off. Generally, the rest of your time, your team is also dying. And if you're the healer within a raid, you want to prioritize your raid team over your own health. Your next one is Enhanced Bulwark. Gain stability. When stability is applied to you, you gain a stack of stability. It's as simple as it says. When you gain stability, you gain more stability. So you can get up to 2 stacks of stability. There's actually currently very few things that grant you stability. There's something within Retribution, which will let you gain stability, which is Unwavering Avoidance, and your Jealous Inspiring Reinforcement also grants you stability. So it's good for that. Beyond that, not really. You have to be able to you have to make sure you're taking a trait or a legend that will give you stability. But it worked perfectly if this gave stability instead of protection in the Facet of Chaos. So next up we have our weapon, which I already have out. And the weapon the Herald gains is the shield. Now if you don't have Herald activated, as with any elite specialization, you lose the shield. You will no longer be able to use this or any shield in combat. Your first skill is going to be Envoy of Exuberance. Send energy of glint toward the target area, granting protection to allies before releasing a burst of energy that heals the allies, granting protection again when it returns to you. So this is used, generally speaking, within heal builds. It is really good for ranged healing and good protection, and also can be really good if you're running a defensive build in and of itself. Has great utility there. And if I was actually wearing healing gear, it would be a lot higher of a heal than 1,683. Basically, this is what the skill looks like. And it'll bounce back. Gave me protection, and of course I gained might because of that trait that I have. Whenever I gain a boon, I also gain might. So, once more, this is what the skill looks like. And it can go to anything within its range of you. Your next one is Crystal Hibernation, which is also one of your traits that you can take. Channel a shield from the mist to protect you, blocking attacks and regenerating health. So this is what it looks like. And I can't move. I can well, I can move, but it ends up making it go away. And thus you end up losing the ticks of that, and it ends up just not being worth it within the trait itself. It will heal you a little bit, but not much. So next up are the facets. The facets are something really cool. Enemy, please. I'm all ears. And your first facet is the facet of light. Place the facet of light on yourself to grant nearby allies regeneration every few seconds. It also gives you regeneration. It's very tricky there. Your facet of light will turn into infused light. Consume the facet of light to heal yourself and invert all incoming strikes to healing for a short duration. This is a really nice healing skill. Every time I don't run Glint, I sometimes forget that I don't have this heal skill and will mistakenly run into damage after using my heal skill. I admit it. But what is really nice about it is even though, sorry, wrong skill, 6 there. Even though the heal in and of itself for the initial heal is only 1,903, what you're really after is the inverted damage. Because if any of you guys have ever faced a Revenant in PvP, you'll start attacking them and you'll throw all of your cooldowns on them at once, and you'll get them really low, and then all of a sudden they spike back up to full health. That is what they're using, is the facet of light going into infused light. So what I always tell my friends when they're facing a Herald in PvP, look at their health bar, and right below their health bar they'll have this little symbol that looks like a little health plus sign within a circle. That says that they have the facet of light activated. If they have the facet of light activated, you want to just slowly chunk down their health and wait for them to use that. Wait for this thing here called infused light to blink off of them, and then you can use your bursts to kill them. Because otherwise all your burst damage is going back into the Revenant and healing them back up. The next facet is the facet of strength. Place the facet of strength on yourself to grant nearby allies might every few seconds. So this one will continually pulse out might. And of course, since we're also using the trait that grants us more might, we can stack up to about 8 might fairly quickly. But what we're really looking for is the burst of strength. Consume the facet of strength, damaging nearby foes and causing vulnerability. The facet of strength will be disabled while the skill is recharging. So it is kind of a letdown. You lose your facet, so you're no longer pulsing out might, but this is what it'll do. And watch the down here below the health bar. We gain 20 stacks of vulnerability fairly quickly. Now that's not anything major because a lot of classes pulse out vulnerability very quickly. If you ever group with a ranger, for instance, that is a longbow ranger, you're going to be stuck with someone who's pulsing out constant vulnerability just by their auto attack. So it's not as useful for that, but I use it constantly for the vulnerability. Next up is your facet of elements. Place a facet of element on yourself, grant nearby allies swiftness every few seconds, and it turns into the elemental blast. Now, this one will pulse out swiftness and means you have perma-swiftness on you. It's great to use in the open world as a speed buff, because the Revenant runs very, very slowly, as we all know, as a base. The Herald, however, runs fairly quickly. Just keep in mind, in the open world, also, if you're, say, trying to race somebody for the fun of it, you're going to end up losing that race simply because you're giving your ally swiftness, who's next to you, that you're running beside, as well as yourself. And you have no control who that swiftness goes to. So the elemental blast is really cool because you consume the facet of elements to cover the target area and magical dragon breath. Now this is amazing because of the fact that if you're running a condition build, say my condition build that I made a video over earlier, that wants to use Herald just because you're using it in the open world and you don't want to lose your swiftness buff. This means you gain access to 3 different conditions, as well as if you respect for poison, because every time you apply Torment, you're going to apply poison. And you're going to apply Torment by default because you're applying a condition. So basically you gain access to your 3 pulses of burning, 2 pulses of chilled, and a pulse of weakness. Now the pulse of chill and weakness are both break bar effects, so this one is used for a supplemental break bar ability, meaning you can throw it out there if all your major ones are on cooldown and just to slowly tick down the break bar and help a little bit more. Your Axe 4 is also used for that, as an example. So again, this is what it looks like when it's sticking out the damage. Of course, the weakness and, the poison and the torment won't be applied if you're running a power build or a heal build. It's just applied currently because I'm running my Condi build before I came in here. The next one is going to be the Facet of Darkness. Place a Facet of Darkness on yourself to grant nearby allies fury every few seconds. So, like all the other ones, it's going to pulse out fury every 3 seconds. Its target number is going to be 5, radius is 600. And of course, you can't use any Herald ability underwater. But this is what it looks like here when it's active. And of course, you're going to be gaining might if you took the middle trait. And now it turns into the Gaze of Darkness. Consume the Facet of Darkness to reveal the area around you, pulling foes out of stealth and blinding them. This is useful, the stealth thing's useful for only PvP, in all honesty. It's kind of sort of useful in the open world if you see something around you that's stealth. But let's be honest, a NPC that is stealth versus a player that is stealthed is going to be very, very different. A player has a full-on mind behind them, whereas an NPC does not, so you can kind of predict the NPC's movement patterns and find them. But this is what it looks like. You just end up having dragon eyes fly over you, which is pretty cool. Your next one is Facet of Chaos. Place a Facet of Chaos on yourself to grant nearby allies protection every few seconds. This one is mainly used in a healing build to pulse out that protection, and in a break bar capacity. And the break bar capacity comes from chaotic release. Consume Facet of Chaos, releasing chaotic winds, damaging and knocking back foes while granting super speed to allies. Facet of Chaos will be disabled while the skill is recharging, like with every other facet out there. So this one is used as a major hit to a break bar for an enemy. And it is because of the knockback that you get, it will hit pretty hard as a break bar. So this is what it looks like.
Behold, dragon and hero
and it,
together.
Of course, will currently apply burning because of a trait that I have. And basically, Facet of Chaos is going to be your elite. It is used to break bar, and it can also be used in normal instances in PvE if you're trying to make sure, say, a Skrit isn't carrying a box towards where it needs to. You can get in front of them in their path and use the Facet of Chaos to knock them back and away to buy a little bit more time to DPS it down. I also use it constantly within my condition build just to apply the burning that it would apply because of the trait that I have, but that would be because any elite you would want to do that with. I hope this allows you guys to understand the Herald Elite specialization a little bit better with our shield and so forth, and allows you to play Herald a little bit better. I will see you guys in the next video over, I don't know what class yet, so probably Ranger at this point. I was trying to get my warrior prepared, but I'm fairly certain I'm going to be going over Ranger at this point because I know it a little bit better. And I will be covering the Renegade, which is the next elite specialization for the Herald, as more information is released about that. There is going to be a beta weekend for the PvP aspects, which will allow us to take a look over the Renegade, and so a video covering what I learn will be added to this guide series. A full-on guide over the Renegade, after I learn how to play it a little bit better, will be up down the line, after I have actually had time to play the Renegade and understand it a little bit better. Again, thank you guys for watching. I shall see you in the first Ranger video.